When you have issues, go back to identity, go back to your core, go back to what's going on internally, and there's always something there.
Yeah.
And it makes the solutions so much simpler. And the ripple effect is powerful.
And you know what's so interesting is that I run into a lot of individuals who feel guilty in receiving this type of support
Why do they feel guilty?
because they don't believe that they are enough.
If you don't get your garden right, you're not truly living. I mean, so many people have not experienced peace and love in going through a day, going through a week, going through a month, where you just are functioning as your true self and you're enjoying the journey. It doesn't mean everything has to be perfect, because life is never going to be perfect,
It's not.
because we don't have enough control to make it perfect.
Right.
And if we did, we would be God. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I am your host, Coach Seth, and we've got a special guest. But before we jump into that, I just want to remind you that you can listen to this show anywhere that podcasts are streamed. You can also, if you're a visual learner, which I am, check us out on our YouTube page at the 5-Star Life, or our newest program partner channel is called Your Home TV. Go to yourhometv.com, check it out. We're on a mission to truly transform students' lives by challenging the way they think, the way they act, the way they lead, while equipping them with the social, with the academic, with the athletic, with the employability skills they need to thrive. And so that's a mouthful, but we're hitting every domain. It's a holistic approach to really wrapping around kids and getting to their core, the mindset, their character, but then giving them skills. So many kids go through 12 years of education and have no idea who they are, what they want to do, or what their skills are. And we're on a mission to come alongside public schools, private schools, nonprofit organizations, and deliver some of those tangibles to help them get there. So go check us out at 5starlife.org. We've got a great show because Cherri Kulp with Internal Garden and Leadership Solutions is with us today. Cherri, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy to be with you.
Okay, did I get, because you had a rebrand.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Well, it's actually Internal Garden Coaching and Leadership Solutions.
Internal Garden Coaching.
Yes.
Because you're coaching.
I am.
You're a coach.
I am a coach. Yes.
Wow. So talk to me about Internal Garden Coaching.
Yes. So I have been doing this work, executive coaching and personal coaching, for almost 5 years now. And within that time frame, I've collected some really great data from the individuals I've had the opportunity to serve. And I've noticed a theme. A lot of things that my clients do or present themselves to be is based off of experiences over time, trauma that has shaped them, words that were spoken to them. And I call those seeds. And seeds land on ground, good ground, fertile ground, and they grow to bear fruit that one can either enjoy or cannot enjoy because it's spoiled. And so I just kind of zoomed out a little bit and realized, where do I really need to focus on? And a lot of times coaches, we have a lot of great coaches out there, but I feel like the focus needs to be inward and not outward. And we've been talking a lot about this when it comes to emotional intelligence, polyvagal theory, mindset, coaching as well. And so that kind of combines it all together. And my focus is, who are you under pressure? True character reveals itself when you're under pressure. And so that is like the 100,000-foot view area of focus. But again, the method is the same. Focusing on the inward and not the outward.
I am such a big believer in that. I don't think we take enough time to look at the inside, because everything on inside, I mean, the outside, the exterior, all of our behaviors, all of our habits, all those things come from somewhere.
Yes.
And we've spent so much time as a society looking at habits.
Yes.
Looking at all these outward, really they're not predictors. They're just results
Yes.
of the outflow of what's inside. I just literally blew into the studio. You're here before me and so patient. But one of the questions I got asked by several students today as we were doing site visits was, what is your favorite lesson to teach?
Mm.
And I just said, well, my favorite lesson to teach are the most important lessons to teach that have to do with identity and your value and how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself. It's all the internal garden stuff that it's who you are at your core,
Absolutely.
because your core is going to produce fruit.
Absolutely.
And I love the idea of the seeds. And it's so interesting as you were talking about seeds. I was thinking about, it's we're recording this in spring, and it's just amazing how like my grass is growing.
Mhm.
I've fertilized it. But you know what else is growing? Weeds.
Yes.
They're growing everywhere.
Yes.
And it's wild how me trying to get grass to grow in a bare spot is really hard. But weeds will grow in that spot so easy, so natural. They'll grow everywhere so
Yes.
naturally. And it's so interesting because so much of the research says our minds are exactly the same way.
Absolutely.
It's so easy for the negative to take root and grow and thrive, but there takes some discipline. Talk about, where do you start in really looking at your internal garden, at pulling the weeds and planting the right stuff and maintaining it? Because it
Yeah.
seems like it's harder.
It can be very challenging, and a lot of it is self-awareness, and you're absolutely right when we talk about the weeds that grow up so fast, and my work really focuses on that inner critic, and there's a quote, and I think I've said this multiple times on this show. It's an African proverb that says, "If you can conquer the enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm."
Mm.
And that inner critic is where those weeds come into play. And I did a workshop a few weeks ago talking about how to create a positive working environment. And what we need as leaders, as individuals, is 3 positive things and 1 negative thing to be able to be optimistic.
Mm.
So that's the proper ratio, because our mind is constantly thinking of things that are negative. And if it's more than 3-to-1 ratio, we're going to stay in the negative. And that ties right back into what we've been talking about for the last several months about the polyvagal theory, right? Getting into that lower state. But you have to think of things that are positive. It's not about denying things, but it's about being aware. So awareness comes with understanding, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And where is the source, right? And in this level of coaching, it's not so much focusing on the problem, but focusing on the person.
Mm.
Because when you focus on the person and coaching the person, you're getting to the root of things.
Yeah, that's good. So 3-to-1 is the ratio.
3-to-1.
And I've read that by the time kids turn 18, over the span of their young life, it's 1-to-19. For every positive thing they hear, there's 19 criticisms.
Mm.
So, we wonder why so many adults and so many people struggle with identity or struggle with the right behaviors. It's because that ratio's been so wrong. They've been in a toxic culture.
Absolutely. And it's coming from so many different places, whether it's coming from home, social, traditional media, from our friends group, from family that's outside of the nuclear family. So we're inundated with those things. And we can go on a larger topic about how that's by design, but it creates fear. And people make decisions based off of that very strong emotion. And so there is money making business, if you will, when it comes to being in that negative state. And so we have to look at the why, right? Why is this happening now? And why is it everywhere?
When you say money making, talking about creating environments of stress,
Yes.
which leads to health issues, which
Yes.
leads to somebody profiting.
Yes.
People don't want to talk about that.
No.
Some people think that's actually like conspiracy theorist stuff. Isn't that interesting?
It is very interesting. And what is so fascinating about the negative environment, I think I've shared this about confirmation bias. If we are wired to believe that things are negative, we're going to look for it. And so if we think the world is on fire, we're going to look for things that will put that fire out. right? And so I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today about Dr. Google, right? If we feel we got an ache in our back, oh, it must be I got a slip disc. And it ain't even that, right? It's because again, we think that everything is 100 times worse than what it really is.
Mm,
But that
mm.
is kind of how our environments have been.
That you said a lot there, Dr. Google. That's so interesting. I have a friend who years ago was that's what he was doing. He would just his mind would think about what could be wrong with his body.
Mhm.
And I don't have scientific evidence for this, but I do believe that he had a health issue that was caused because he just kept thinking it. And now, for people that we both study the mind,
Yes.
and when you study the mind, you know how powerful it is.
Very.
It has creative power.
Yes.
It can create health or sickness.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, I nobody can convince me. And I don't go around like talking about this person specifically, but I know multiple people that they've created their own sicknesses.
And a lot of that is because of bitterness. There are scientific research out there that talks about when someone lives in the state of bitterness, it releases certain chemicals within the body, which ages and weakens the collagen. So you look 100 years older than what you really are.
Mm,
But if you're at peace, it strengthens the internal body and the internal nervous system, and it looks beautiful outwardly, right? And so when people look like 10 years younger, you're like, what are you doing? I'm at peace, right? Or someone looks 20 years older, "What's going on?" "I've been stressed out." And we've seen
mhm.
it. I've looked at
Oh,
pictures of
yeah.
myself in the past, I'm like, "I look like somebody auntie and I'm only 19," right? But it's because I was going through a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so there is, again, a profit out there to be made, especially if you're getting wrinkles as a woman, right? Imma get this wrinkle cream, and
Mhm.
it's so many different layers to this, but going back to the internal garden, it's really about monitoring what's going inside your mind. And when you are aware of the thoughts that are coming, it is a way to be more empowered and emboldened to take the proper action to resolve something in a way that's healthy, not unhealthy.
So self-awareness, and you have, some tools that are available to help maybe jumpstart that process.
Yes, I just finished my website, so you can go to internalgardencoaching.com and you can see a free assessment to find out who you are as a leader under pressure.
Mm,
Now, you don't have to be an executive, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to take it. You can be a leader within your family.
mhm.
Who are you when pressure is all around you? Because that really shows your character. And so it's a free assessment, so feel free to go online to take that.
So what would you say to people who, you know, they're under stress, they're under pressure, they're reassessing their life right now, and hearing this conversation about going internal, um, especially people who maybe this is catching them by surprise. They're like, "Huh, I've been doing these things, and they're good, but they're not dealing with the root issues, and I didn't realize the root issue is deeper." Where would you tell them to start?
That is such a loaded question, and I'm gonna ask you to tear it apart and reframe it so that way I can get to the heart of it.
So somebody who um, they're living life and they're hearing this podcast about the internal work that needs to be done if you want to live what we call a five-star life
Mhm.
and really become who God created you to be, maximizing your gifts, your talents, living connected lives and relationships, deep, um, valuable relationships, kind of the process of thriving, right? Financially and your health. So people that are listening are saying, "Man, I'm not really thriving in relationships. Maybe I'm not doing okay financially, but I know something's missing, and I've never really looked internal at that level. I'm just on the hamster wheel, living my life at a fast pace, trying to survive
Mhm.
and doing my best in the process." What would you say to those people that they know there's some deficits, but they haven't slowed down long enough? W-
Yeah, I would say the first thing is to assess and figure out what is the dominant emotion at play. Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it doubt? And dig deeper. Why is that emotion ever present? What event was that? And just start unlayering it. Because when you get to the root of those things, you can really do that work. It's kind of like the phoenix. It is a Greek mythology image where it sets its nest ablaze and it comes out brighter and more bold and beautiful because of the process. But it has to go through that process. And it's painful, right? Getting to the root of it. But you have to ask yourself, what is this dominant emotion? Because a lot of times it's not fear, it's something else. And sometimes we stop at that level and you have to go a little bit deeper. But the first thing is, what is the emotion? Because emotion is energy, emotion. What direction are you going?
Hmm,
Emotions will take you to that direction.
it's good. All right, we're going to take a break right there. We'll be back with more. The 5-Star Life Parent app. Each lesson includes a short video and simple discussion prompts designed to help families reconnect and start talking again. Because when parents lead the conversation, kids grow stronger. Download the 5-Star Life Parent app today and start your first family conversation this week, transforming kids' lives by challenging the way they think, act, and lead. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I am your host, Coach Seth, and we've got a special guest. For those of you who tune in regularly, you know Cherri Kulp of Internal Garden Coaching and Leadership Solutions.
Yes.
I'm gonna get this right. But Cherri is all that. She's got leadership solutions. She's a coach, and the internal garden part is just, it's really a revelation of what she thinks is the most important place as she's working with people locally and across the country, trying to help them become who they're destined to be. And it starts inside.
Absolutely. It starts inside. And the beautiful thing about this partnership, and that's what it is. Coaching is a partnership, is that you're not alone in doing this work. And you have a guide, a friend that can gently hold up that mirror, asking those right questions. And I tell people all the time is that as a coach, I don't, well, let me rephrase that. In my prior work as an earth coaching and consulting, I was a consultant and a coach. As a consultant, I have the answers. As a coach, I ask the questions because you have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this work, as a coach in this phase of my journey, I ask the right question to rise up the answers that has always been there within that individual, but they've been afraid to answer that question alone.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that the answers are within.
Yes.
And, you know, the best thing that consultants and other people do is they help you find those answers, right? They lead you to that. And the ones that you come up with yourself, they resonate, it lands, and you just need somebody to help confirm that.
Absolutely. And you know, what's so interesting and humbling about being a coach is that I have to be in a position of trusting that this individual knows what's best for them, right? And sitting in the pause with them because it takes time to dig throughout those memories to find out what is really going on. And again, it may not look like going back to when they're 9, 10, or 12 or whatever. It could go back to like what happened last week at the office.
Mhm.
Why did I respond the way that I responded? Is this the outcome that I want to continue to receive? And I asked the question, why did you respond? What did that remind you of? Who do you want to be on the other side? And then the conversation truly begins.
And I think, you know, for people listening who maybe you've struggled with um, anxiety, maybe you struggle with meltdowns, maybe you crash out on your kids or at work, or maybe you have certain environments you can't go to because there's just like social anxiety, panic attacks, or just there's some stubbornness of just things you refuse to do, and you're watching it hold you back in your career. You're watching it limit your family connections. You just know there's something off. I would just remind people that, like, the most successful people spend the most money on consultants and coaches. And there's people that they'll spend $100,000 on an hour-long meeting.
Yes.
And there's some people listening that think that's absolutely absurd and insane. And I just beg to differ. How valuable is it to step into who God created you to be? How valuable is it to be the best version of yourself with your kids, with your spouse, at work? How valuable is it if you can get rid of the noise and the weeds in your garden so that the flourishing you, the version of yourself that's meant to flourish naturally and like exponential growth starts to happen in your life? What price tag is that worth?
And I would even add, you already are paying a cost, but with a different currency.
Yeah, there's a cost.
There is a cost.
Yeah.
And I think people, because we're in this McDonaldization society, want things right then, right there. And it takes time, like it took time for you to get to where you are right now. It's going to take time to unfold those things that have been buried deep and to do the work. And so it is a return on investment, not just for you, but as you mentioned, the community, your family, your circle. Because when you're winning, we all win. We're all influenced. And again, the nervous system, when you have
Mhm.
a healthy nervous system, you can co regulate with other people. And emotional contagion is real. There are so many research papers about the power of emotion and how it changes the dynamics within a room. So if you want to be that even that silent leader, that quiet leader, by having a calm internal garden, that is totally within reach. But there has to be work.
I mean, the internal garden is so important because, um, wherever, if you're having a hard time at work or with a certain person, you can remove yourself from that person, from that environment. But if your internal garden is not good, everywhere you go, there you are.
That's it. That's it.
And how can you put a price tag on peace?
Mm,
How can you put a price tag on the sense of peace and confidence you'll have knowing that your garden's right when you walk into your home after work or maybe to your
absolutely.
workplace, knowing
Absolutely.
that you're at peace. It's an absolute game changer in terms of living life instead of being on the hamster wheel, just surviving and being along for the ride.
Right.
And I don't think, Sherry, most people have ever experienced that. I think there's a ton of people that have never experienced that in their entire life.
I would agree with that. And it's interesting. I was listening to a song by Spillhouse, and it's called, I think the title is Psalms 23 or 31. And there's a part in there where the singer says, "Not every fight needs me." And that spoke volumes because a lot of times we're reacting to the wound.
Hmm.
And that when you are constantly reacting, you're not in peace. You're not in a state of peace. Right? You're in that survival, like you're constantly high in that those chemicals that are released is going to age you. It's going to
Mhm.
weaken your system. And so there's nothing peaceful about that. But when you have the tools, that strong internal infrastructure to be able to be self-aware, then self-manage, socially aware, then you can have strong relationships in how you manage them. That is the process.
I love that. And again, this is stuff that we're actually a part of Five Stars' purpose is teaching these things to kids. And I just literally was in a school an hour ago and getting feedback from these were fifth graders, fourth and
Yeah.
fifth graders. And I just asked them, like, what was a lesson that really impacted your life? I had several kids say, and they talked about the polyvagal letter.
Mm.
They said the most helpful lesson was the breathing techniques you taught when there's stress or not anxious before a test. One kid was a pitcher. He was like, when I'm on the mound, I actually had a couple kids get hits off of me, and I had to stop and pause and just I
Mm.
did the box breathing. He said, and I brought myself back to peace, and then I finished the game strong.
Mm.
This is a fifth grader. And
Powerful.
so I'm saying that, I'm sharing that because I know there's people listening that you've dealt with anxiety and fear and all these, just the scrambled mix of emotions that have controlled you and taken you on a ride. And some of you are like, I, I've tried everything. I can't do it. This is my
Mhm.
lot in life. This is
Mhm.
just who I am. And I would say false. If fifth graders can do it and learn it, it's not rocket science, but you have to be willing to maybe look at it a little bit differently.
And you know what's so interesting? I have been studying this week. Oh, the Lord is always teaching me something. And you know how I think it was in Deuteronomy where God said, have no other gods before me, no other idols. And we think about physical things, but God got me to a place where I was really, what was revealed to me is that I idolize control.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow, Sherry, this is something invisible, but it has visible outcomes,
Yeah.
right? And so putting more of myself in trying to control things and not in God, that became my idol.
Hmm.
And responding, reacting. I'm like, well, why am I always responding this way? Why am I reacting that way? And these are the questions that I ask myself and questions I ask my clients when they reveal certain things to me. And that allows me to do the work when I ask myself, unafraid, Sherry, why do you do this?
Hmm. That's good. So you are coaching all kinds of people.
I am.
What are some of the themes that you're seeing out there that people are struggling with or dealing with?
Yes. So the main thing is confidence. And we talked about identity. It is because they were told they were this, they were that, but they never told themselves who they are. They never given themselves permission to be their best selves. The other thing is people have a very challenging time having crucial conversations. Conflict is not something that they're good at. And a lot of it is because of how they define conflict or how they first experience conflict. Conflict is an opportunity for two people to engage in a healthy dialogue of what the needs are and how we can meet them together. The give and take, right? And it's interesting because I did a workshop about conflict and the original root word for conflict, and it wasn't as what it is today and how it evolved over time.
Hmm.
And so when you look at conflict, it's an opportunity again to share ideas, perspectives, and walk away stronger together because you were stretched in a healthy way when it's done right.
Mhm.
So crucial conversations is a very touchy subject for a lot of
Sure.
people, and how to be resilient, how to bend, not break under pressure. And a lot of people don't know how to do that well. And I'm not speaking from, I read a textbook about this or this is like the hot topic, but this is from my own experience. Almost every position I've held has had some sort of pressure. But again, it goes way back to my early days and being in that environment and navigating, the terrains. But I believe that again, all things work together for the good. I had to be on that training ground
Yeah.
as a youth. And so those are the three things I've seen throughout my career as a coach. And that's why, again, I pivoted to internal gardening because it's all about within, right?
Mhm.
Who do you need to be to have that crucial conversation? Who do you need to be to speak up and stand up for yourself? Who do you need to be to bend and not break? So that is the core of everything that I do.
Mm. So good. All right, we're going to take another commercial break here. At the break, go check us out at fivestarlife.org. Again, you can listen or watch at YouTube at the 5 Star Life or anywhere podcasts are streamed. At 5 Star Life, we talk a lot about the right tools. See, the hammer is the courage to be the best person you can be. The chisel is the respect you give and the respect you earn. The level, that's the integrity that keeps you balanced in a world that's always shifting. And the saw represents responsibility. It is what separates you from harmful actions and experience. It's the sacrifice it takes to work hard and be your best. Tools, when they're all used together, things are built. There's progress, but where there are no tools, there can be no progress. We give these important tools to kids every single day, and we couldn't do it without our partners like Global Link Distribution. Global Link supports this mission so that these values, courage, respect, integrity, responsibility, and sacrifice become the tools these amazing young people use to become great. Global Link Distribution is a leader and supplier to the RV, manufactured housing, cabinet shop, cargo, and horse trailer industries, but they're also a proud sponsor of this program to help 5 Star Life students thrive. It is our turn to see to it that our children have the tools that build greatness. Volunteer or donate today at 5starlife.org. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I am your host, Coach Seth, and I'm joined in studio with Cherri Kulp. Cherri, we're having a great conversation. So at the last segment, you were talking about some of the key areas that, as you coach people, they're struggling with. One of them was conflict.
Yes. And we do whatever we can to protect ourselves from harm, whether it's real or perceived. And when it comes to conflict, depending on one's first introduction to it, they can avoid it, or some people run to it because that's home. It feels like home to them,
Sure.
right? And so there are things that you can do to have a healthy dialogue when conflict arises. And that is ensuring that you are aware of what is coming up within you first. As I mentioned before, self-aware, self-manage, social aware, relationship management, right? Those are the quadrants that Daniel Goleman, who talks about emotional intelligence, really speak on. And so first be aware, what is the emotion that comes up? And sometimes if that emotion is so strong and you feel you won't be able to um, have that type of conversation, you feel that it's worth having, it's okay to fall back and say, you know what, right now, this emotion I'm feeling, or I'm afraid I might be bleeding on you. I need to pull back so that way you won't be wounded in the process. Can we talk about this another time? Right. Or if you are ready to have that conversation, be self-aware, right? If this conversation needs to be happening right now, okay, I'm feeling anger. Why am I feeling anger? Or I'm feeling rejection. Is that my 8-year-old self being triggered by something that sounds or feels very familiar? If so, I need to tell that 8-year-old, okay, go ahead and color, go ahead and watch PBS, you'll be good, and I'm gonna come back and deal with you later. But I need the woman who's paying um and with that information, you can have that proper conversation. And so it's all about tone as well. 80 to 85% of communication is nonverbal. And some people who have been in high conflict environments as a child are very aware of nonverbal cues
Mm-hmm.
because they had to navigate the landmines within that parental relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who are they going to be right now?
Yeah.
And so they're so aware of like the twitches, the tones, the inflections. And so to some people who are growing through that healing process, they may be triggered, or you may be triggered and you may snap, right? And so it's being truly aware. And that's again, that self-awareness is key in having a healthy conversation that where conflict is arising.
Sure. So, and what do you think about in terms of stepping away? If I'm a person that I'm self-aware, recognize myself, I'm getting to a place I'm not in a good spot to have a conversation. Is there a difference between that and people that use that as kind of an excuse to check out of the conversation?
That's a great question because I think I mentioned this before. There are 4 different stages that the body goes into because the nervous system is protecting itself from harm, and it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. That freezing, right, or flight can look like I'm gonna leave, or that freezing
Mhm.
could be I'm here, but I'm not here,
Mhm.
right? And so there is a difference, and it may look like being aware enough to say, you know what, I'm not sure where I'm at right now.
And I think that's something that just learning this has been so helpful to me because I'm a fix it now type of person, right? So when people freeze, or because my brain is like, I'm wired to deal with everything right now. And everybody's brains aren't wired that way.
They are
Some
not.
people like Mia, who's on the show, she's got a process. Like she needs to take a step back and process. So there's times where we had to figure this out because I'm like, I want to do this right now, and we're trying to brainstorm, and she's just quiet, and I'm like, what, is she not engaged? Is she like, what's going on? So she has to step back, and she's kind of a process crock pot, and then comes back to it with something really good. And if I'm not careful, if I think everybody's like me, I'm gonna think, well, that she doesn't care,
Right.
or she's disengaged, or she's avoiding the topic. Like, why are you avoiding the conversation?
Right.
Which will only frustrate her. And this goes for like, there's so many people I know that are different than me.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's one of the first pieces to recognize like everybody's not me.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it can be as simple, and I do this with my clients. If I touch a spot that got them freezing, I would say, "May I make an observation?" Ask for permission, and then share that observation. "I notice that you are quiet after this, like, tell me more about what you're thinking. I'm happy to wait." And if someone is a processor and needs to physically leave, say, "Hey, when can we reconvene? What would be a good time?" Right? Because sometimes people get caught up in analysis paralysis by analysis or analysis by paralysis, right? And they never like
Never a
get it
good time.
perfect, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, hey, let's get it on agreement.
Yeah.
What works best for both of our schedules? Because we know this is important for both of us.
Yeah. So giving people grace to be different than you in conflict in relationships is so powerful for me,
Yes.
right? Just
Yes.
recognize like, okay, just because they don't want to deal with this right now doesn't mean they're avoiding it, doesn't mean they're whatever.
Mhm.
And giving them that grace, that space, and picking it back up, it's amazing how you can have a great conversation if you're both at a good place.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. It deepens the relationship and it creates that bond that only conflict can really do, right? And again, conflict is not bad. It's conflict's not the problem, it's how you handle it.
Hmm.
That's what makes it bad.
Yeah. And there's so many situations where conflict, every conflict in a relationship for me, it builds more trust. It takes the relationship into a more intimate. I'm not talking about in a sexual way, but the intimacy. Everybody's ruined that word.
True.
but it's you have a more intimate relationship with that person because you've gone down a path of communication where you didn't understand and now you came to understanding. And when you can come to understanding, it means I see you, I hear you, you see me, you hear me, and that connection, when that takes place, that is healing to our soul, to our
Absolutely.
mind. And we need and we long for relationships where there's trust and connection.
Yes.
And so the conflict is the rite of passage to that deeper connection.
I love that, the rite of passage. And what really exists within all that is vulnerability.
Mm.
And people can only be vulnerable if there is psychological safety. That's something I also teach in my workshops is how to create psychological safety because you don't know what people are dealing with, right? And I'm
Mhm.
not saying you got to coddle people. That's not what I'm saying. But the best way to create psychological safety is to create it within yourself.
Mm.
People will feel it.
Yeah.
They will.
Be the co-regulator,
That part.
right? Be the grounded person in the conversation, which
Mhm.
another thing we teach kids is like the number one key to dealing with anxiety or stress or fear or depression or whatever. I mean, like co-regulation. If you can be around somebody that helps bring you to a healthier place, like that's a powerful tool in your tool pouch.
Mhm.
Get around somebody that can help you. And if you're that person, just your presence helps people all over the place.
Absolutely. And I will also add, if you are that person, create healthy boundaries.
Mm.
Because if you don't, you will burn out. What is in your cup is for you, what flows out that's in excess is for others. And a lot of times people have learned to be that safe space because they had to in their environment to keep the peace. And so I encourage people, if you are that person that people say, "Oh, I can always talk to, I can just be free with you." That's great, but is that something you are always to people? And who is that for you?
Mm. And how are you training the relationship? Which
Yes.
that sounds a little weird. Like because you're not trying to manage every relationship in a weird, like micromanaging, manipulative
But
way.
there's
That's
rules
not
of
what it is.
engagement though.
But there are rules of engagement. And truly, you think we train people to dump on us and and basically vent to us. So I'm getting ready to prepare a lesson where I'm going to talk about relationships and how to connect with people.
Mhm.
And this is for a Christian faith-based group. And one of the things that's interesting, but we don't like think about how to connect with God.
Mm.
And how do you connect with God? And it's interesting how a lot of us, we connect with God through grumbling and complaining
Mm.
because
Mm.
God's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we can just go and just kind of dump or vomit on him. And it's just an interesting thing. And you think about like, so do I enjoy being around people
Mm.
that to your point earlier, they can just always come and dump.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I want to be there for you,
Yeah.
but if that's all our relationship is, that's not a relationship.
But interestingly enough, some people don't have that awareness because that's who they've always been and that's home to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's some people who are raised in environments where they are the hero and they like to save people and they do that in different ways. And some people are like, well, you can just tell me all what's going on, but they don't even ask about that person, right? In regards
Mm-hmm.
to, I've been in those relationships. And I think that's one of the reasons why I landed to coaching was because I got that training early on, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now I have healthy boundaries internally and externally where I know when to cut it off.
Yeah. And one of the things we teach kids is listen, you are either a giver, a taker, or a matcher.
Mm.
So you have to make a decision. Like, if you want to live a 5-star life and truly um, get to experience joy and peace and relational connection in a 5-star life in those areas, you got to make up your mind because it's the givers that get there.
Mm-hmm.
The takers, they're always trying to take. They're always just dumping on people, always thinking about themselves. What can I get? How can you help me? How can you serve me? And the matchers, it's like they'll be givers if somebody gives them something, maybe, but they'll be takers if somebody's going to try to take them. They'll just reciprocate whatever the relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
And those people go back and forth. And I just think givers, they're different.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a responsibility in our relationships because we have influence. Any relationship where there's some sort of connection, we should be thinking bigger about how can I not just help this person now, but how can I help them bring some awareness to like, hey, you know what? Be a giver.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in a relationship with somebody for too long where they don't ask me about how my day was,
Mm-hmm.
they don't ask that ever, and never want to hear anything about me, or they don't bring something to the table, we're training them to be really miserable people.
And we're training ourselves to believe that we don't.
Right.
Right. And so that was a very hard lesson for me.
Mm.
Very hard lesson, but I know we're coming to a close.
Yeah. No. Okay. Good stuff. There's a lot here. If you enjoy this, please do us a favor. Please click the like button or send or share this with a friend. Again, you can watch us at YouTube at the 5-Star Life. The 5-Star Life Parent app. Each lesson includes a short video and simple discussion prompts designed to help families reconnect and start talking again. Because when parents lead the conversation, kids grow stronger. Download the 5-Star Life Parent app today and start your first family conversation this week, transforming kids' lives by challenging the way they think, act, and lead. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I am your host, Coach Seth, and I am joined with our special regular guest, repeat guest, Cherri Kulp with Internal Garden Coaching and Leadership Solutions.
Yes.
Again, this conversation, people are living such busy lives, and when there's political noise and there's financial noise and there's pressure, the first thing that we're told when we get on an airplane is to, when there's an issue, put your own oxygen mask on first. And what do? We do the exact opposite. Or we wrongly place the priority in the wrong area. We're putting the oxygen mask on our ear or under our armpit or somewhere that doesn't help get oxygen to where we need to go. And I really believe that what you do, focusing on mindset and identity and who you are internally, which is right in line with everything we teach in 5-star to students, is absolutely where people need to take that mask and apply it. And when you have issues, go back to identity, go back to your core, go back to what's going on internally, and there's always something there.
Yeah.
And it makes the solutions so much simpler, and the ripple effect is powerful.
And you know what's so interesting is that I run into a lot of individuals who feel guilty in receiving this type of support
Why do they feel guilty?
because they don't believe that they are enough. And that ties in with the confidence piece. They don't believe they deserve to live a quality life because someone or something happened that communicated that to them. And they feel like what I'm doing is selfish, but it's self-full. It's not selfish. And it reminds me of love thy neighbor as you love yourself. We stop at love thy neighbor, but we don't do that other part.
It's hard to give what you don't possess.
It reminds me of this quote that says, "Be leery of a naked man who tries to offer you his shirt."
Man,
Mhm.
yeah. And it's crazy because what that feels like in real time when you meet people is it feels like they lack substance.
Mhm. And sometimes they're really good at masking it, and you don't know that they're lacking until either it's too late or you're in the thick of things.
Mhm.
Um, and so going back to some of my clients who were having a tough time in the beginning, but as they grow through the process, the confidence, it just spills over into helping them do these other things that they've had challenging times doing.
Which, if you don't get your garden right, you're not truly living.
Mhm.
I mean, so many people have not experienced peace and love in going through a day, going through a week, going through a month, where you just are functioning as your true self and you're enjoying the journey.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean everything has to be perfect because life is never going to be perfect
It's not.
because we don't have enough control to make it perfect.
Right.
And if we did, we would be God. And so we have all this stuff happening, all these variables that we can't control. And some people choose to assert themselves and control those things and wear themselves out.
Mhm.
Other people have learned that I can't control anything but myself. So I'm going to learn internally how to be at peace, at rest, know who I am, know my purpose, know my values, know my mission, get clarity on all those things. And then I'm just going to take one step at a time every day. And
Mhm.
I'm going to love that step. I'm going to enjoy that step. I'm going to savor that step. I'll be happy about that step. I'm going to do that step with the most excellence, the most love, the most joy, the most peace, the most. And I'm just going to be right here in this step because this is the step I need to take today. It's all I'm going to be focused on is that step.
And you know, I will say that is hard for a lot of people. And I think when you were sharing this example, I was thinking about how we're wired to have dominion. And dominion requires control, right? Manipulation and all that kind of good stuff. And so that can be hard for a lot of people. And to some people, it may look like when people are taking it one step at a time, you're not even engaged. You just going, you checked out, but it's not checked out. They're at peace. And oh my gosh, I truly admire those. I'm not a master at it. I am working every day, right? But those who have mastered it, I am their student.
Yeah, same. And I think those are the people that are living fully alive,
Mhm.
enjoying, breathing the air in, breathing the moment in. Like,
Mhm.
how many times do we sit with family, with friends, in work environments, and we are so distracted with so many things, we're not fully present, and we can't enjoy anything. And if I think where we become fully alive is when we get all those things in alignment. where we can truly be in one place at one time and truly alive in that moment,
Mm.
soaking in what's in front of us,
Yes.
applying ourselves to our trade or our craft or whatever it is in the moment, in the zone. And there's so much research about people that do that become masters.
Yes, I believe that. And I think there's many reasons why we don't do that, but I think one of them is that we take life for granted. We think we'll be here tomorrow.
Mhm.
We think we'll be here tomorrow. And especially the younger you are, the more you believe that you'll be here for like 80 more years. But there are unfortunately individuals who are dying every day. And a friend of mine shared this quote with me, and it says, "A branch on a tree that bends isn't always the first one to break." And so we think that because someone is seasoned or older, they're going to be the one to go first, but that's not always the case.
Hmm. Interesting.
And the other reason why we keep ourselves busy is silence is very loud for a lot of people because they have to sit with themselves, with that emotion. And some people don't have a large vocabulary when it comes to name the emotion because if you can't name it, you can't tame it.
Yeah.
And so they stick with one or two emotions and they feel like that's it. No, there's layers to this. And I help people, broaden their vocabulary.
Which is so helpful because there's so much research that says when you can name it and identify it, that takes a lot of the pressure and anxiety out immediately. Just
Absolutely.
naming it.
Yes. Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
So, going full circle here, talking about conflict. What are some of the steps you'd say for people in dealing with conflict? Because I think a lot of the conflict we might be dealing with conflict with someone, but we never address the conflict with them.
That is the first step, right? And that's that self awareness. Assessing, is there an internal conflict about what's happening right now? And if so, what is it? And I had shared this story when I did a workshop last week about the power of self awareness. When I was working in the mayor's office, I often had individuals just say crazy things to me. And people assume because I'm this, soft looking young lady, that that I don't have thick skin, but I do.
Mhm.
And so there was an individual, we were at the Croc Center, the mayor and I, and we were walking away, and this person in the back was yelling and talking crazy and say, she thinks she all that, she thinks she this and that, just real loud and obnoxious. And in my mind, as she's talking, I'm talking to myself. I said, Cherri, what emotion is rising right now? Anger. Is that warranted? Yes. Does it need to be demonstrated? No. What's really happening? She's bleeding on you.
Mm.
How do you need to handle this to keep your integrity intact and to walk away with confidence and pride? And what I did was I turned right around and said, it sounds like you have some concerns. I am more than happy to be of service. Here is my card. When is the best time that you and I can meet?
Really? So the
Shut that
response was
down.
what? Just
Shut.
immediate?
sh- She shut down. She was like, she froze. And the mayor, Pete was like, I said, yeah, that's how you handle that.
Hmm. I think, you know, so many times we crash out, we get stirred up, we respond, then we're embarrassed,
Mm-hmm.
shamed, then we have more like every conflict builds on that conflict and it just creates a deeper hole.
Right. Because I could have responded from a wound
Yeah.
within me, but she doesn't deserve that, even though she was responding to a wound to me.
Hmm.
I mean, in a wound from her to me. Right. So, yeah, you have to pause. There's power in the pause.
And, you know, that moment in public could have branded you one way or another.
Absolutely.
And it's wild because it was a quiet branding. It was important for her, important for your boss, important for you. But if you would have responded the other way, it would have been very public.
It would have been. You talking about all the news stations all of a sudden coming
It
around
would
the
have been
corner?
very
Who called
public.
y'all?
It would have
Right?
been very
It would
public.
have.
And I think there's so many of us who have blown up in those moments or responded poorly. And then instead of saying that was a bad moment, like, this is bad, I'm so bad at conflict. This is just what I do. And it continues. And we blow up opportunities in relationships and work environments. This is powerful stuff. All right. We just have a couple minutes left. Any final words of wisdom regarding conflict you want to share with our listening audience?
I would say the first step is to ask yourself, what emotion is here? Does it need to be here? And who do I want to be on the other side of this conversation?
That's super wise. And that requires us to, in the moment, be self aware enough to go there. I love it. Okay. How can people get in touch with you?
You can visit my website. All my contact information is there at internalgardencoaching.com.
All right. I encourage you. It is, we're in May. And so some of you made New Year's resolutions about what you wanted to do in your life this year. And some of it, that there's some internal things that are holding you back. It might be time for some of you to invest, put your money where your mouth is. You get a coach. I mean, I just can't encourage you enough to make sure you're investing in yourself, the most important part of who you are. So, and Cherri's giving you the tools to do that. So, thank you for joining us
Thank you for
again.
having
What a great
me.
conversation.
Always is.
And just a reminder, you can listen to this program anywhere podcasts are streamed. You can also, if you're a visual learner, check us out at YouTube at The 5-Star Life. We also have another option, yourhometv.com. Again, both yourhometv.com. It is the 5-Star Life with Coach Seth is the name of the show you're going to search for. And then at 5-Star Life on our YouTube page, check those out. Hit the like button, subscribe button if you like it. We're actually in the process of converting this into a TV show as well. So we're on multiple stations. We're into a podcast format. It's going to be a TV show. So I would love your feedback. If you enjoy this, if you're on social media or you're on one of those platforms, please give us feedback and let us know what you'd like to see, some of the things that you're going on, maybe in your business, maybe at your kids' school, in your family, that you wish we would tackle and address. We'd love to do that.